Hi, thank you all for joining us. I just wanted to say welcome and thank you all for joining us today. So we're going to be talking this morning about contractor licensing. So that's for all the trade licenses. We're launching into that renewal cycle right now, and just wanted to make sure that everyone understood going into it, how the process works, and gets answers to all the typical questions that we have. So I'm going to ask you all to hold your questions until the end of the presentation. And also, if you wouldn't mind keeping the questions you have on point to the topic that we're discussing today. I'll be around afterwards if anyone has any off-topic conversations they'd like to have, or any particular, site-specific conversations. So with that, I'll introduce my colleague, Deputy Director Narita Palenko, who is in charge of our licensing as well as many other things in the department. So thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Narita Polanco. I'm the Assistant Director for Administration and Licensing, and also the License Officer as directed by the ordinance of the City Code. I lead a group of 12, and we mainly focus on all the issuance for licensings and permits. We also process all the payments that come through the office, as well as technology, accounts payable, payroll, and things like that. Out of the 12 members that I have on my team, 6 of them are the people that you see at the counter and the people that deals with customers on a daily basis and make sure those licenses and permits are issued timely. One of the things we're going to focus on is trade licenses. We have 5 major trade licenses that we issue in our office. One of them is general contractor registration. We have power engineers, also stationary engineers, sign contractor license, warm air heating contractor license, or HVAC, and electrical contractor license. Each one of them have specific requirements that are set by the ordinance. So a lot of times people don't understand that these requirements are literally set by the ordinance. This is not something that the department actually sets. We're here to enforce what the ordinance requires for each one of them. So if we look at a general contractor license, they're issued under Chapter 751 of the City Code. These are required for everyone that's want to do work in the city, pool permits, especially for commercial permits. In the residential area, there is a small exception. If you do carry a PA contractor license, you can pull permits for residential without acquiring a license for the city. Also, you can pull permits for residential if it's your permanent home. So if you're working on your own home, you don't need to pull the license. And this is also very specific in the ordinance. And the ordinance is actually a public document, so you can find that online as well. For sign contractors, this is also ruled by Chapter 749 of the City Code. Stated no person, firm, or corporation shall engage in business of building, altering, repairing, maintaining ground signs, wall signs, protecting signs, roof signs, post signs, or any kind of signs of that matter. A lot of people call us to ask if the size of the signs matter. It really matters what type of signs are you actually putting out there. And again, this is specific in our code and also in our website. So everyone that wants to put a permit for a sign for the first time, they need to require a license. And we also have a maintenance license for the actual sign that you get renewed on a yearly basis. Okay? HVAC contractor. These are issued under Chapter 741 of the City Code and required for all HVAC contractors wanting to act, engage, advertise, or otherwise represent HVAC contractors in the city of Pittsburgh. This is a good one to be very cautious about. A lot of people call us because they want to do business with the city. They don't necessarily have a permit at the time, but they want to advertise the newspaper, they want to put signs out. They need to be licensed with the city if they are in the city limits. Now, if you're doing business outside of the city, then you don't need to follow this rule, okay? Electrical contractor license are also issued under Chapter 747 of the City Code, requiring all electrical, same thing, acting, engaging, advertising, or otherwise representing to be electrical contractor needs to obtain a city license, okay? The power stationary engineer license is issued on this Chapter 745 of the City Code, requiring all persons seeking to control, operate pipes, boilers, stationary engines, or any other containers, tanks, vessels under pressure of water, liquid, gas, or steam needs to have a license as well. We have a large pool of license holders for stationary license in the city, and the majority of them maintain some sort of commercial building. This has been something that we have enforced over the years. They also require specific continued education to maintain their license, and we be communicating very closely with the unions to make sure that they are meeting those requirements. And this information is also in our website. One thing that I want to make clear, and I want to make sure that we all walk out of here understanding very, very clear, is the difference between a renewal application and a new application. Our code specifies what's required to issue a license, but not necessarily clearly state when it's a new license versus when it's a renewal. And we want to make sure as a department that we can enforce this accurately. What I'm saying is, if you apply for a license 20 years ago and you never came back to renew it, and you come after 20 years, that's not a renewal. That's a new license. So we want to make sure that we make that clear. So for us in the department, renewal applications are all trade licenses do expire 12 months from the time of issuance. Last June 2016, we just, the ordinance changed to 365 days. So for, if you get a license in June, then they expire in June. In the past, they had a specific date of expiration where everybody expired April 30th. So if you got a license in December, you still expire on April 30th. So council worked on the ordinance to make sure that everybody gets a 12-month worth of their license. So now they're all expiring 12 months or 365 days. All active licenses may be renewed without submitting any application materials, which in this case will be a copy of your test or your experience. That is not necessarily required during the renewal process. If the renewal application is submitted to the license officer no later than 60 days from the expiration date. So this means that if you expire on April 30th, but you came here sometime in May, you can still renew without a problem. Now, if you come to us 60 days after your expiration date, you'll be considered a new application, okay? For power engineers, contractors only, there is a specific part of the ordinance that allows the renewal without retesting if the applicant provides 8 hours for every year that they lapse. So the stationary engineers are the only ones that if you got a license and you didn't renew for 3 years, but you kept your continued education and you can prove that, you can still renew without retesting, okay? Now, all renewal applications for trade licenses that are submitted after 30 days from the expiration date are subject to a late fee. And this comes straight from the ordinance. The ordinance still gives you a gap if your expiration date is April 30th and you came May 15, you can still renew without the late fee, okay? Now, for new applications, there are 3 types of scenarios that we normally see, which is either you never hold a license from the city ever for that type of trade that you're applying for. Any license holder that submitted the renewal application for 60 days, more than 60 days from the expiration date, which be considered a new application as well, or any corporation or business entity that changed names or managed from a different contractor. This is very, very important. A lot of times, as a business, managers, we change our employees very frequently. And a lot of times, we don't actually follow with the rules of the ordinance. So if Joe was our contractor for the past 15 years, and now we hire someone new, that person needs to apply for a new application. The business should not be running on the person who left. I wanted to make sure that you guys have some sort of visual of where we are. And we have growth drastically in the past 2 years. Our permit volume has increased tremendously, and this means that it also increases our responsibility to ensure that these licenses are issued following the code and the department regulations. So if you see or hear a lot about us, It's because we really want to make sure that we are doing what we need to do to keep our community safe, okay? So we're doing a lot of this type of events. We're also trying to put the information on the website. We're sending mailings out, putting it on our Facebook page to try to make sure that we open those channels of communication and people understand the expectations for the licenses, okay? So requirements based on license type. Like I said before, the ordinance is very specific on what each one of them are required, and we're just going to go through it very briefly to give you an idea what that is. For HVAC contractor, the International Code Council Certificate of Pennsylvania Standard Master Mechanical Contractor, and we included there the number of the test. ICC is very specific with each city and has assigned tests for each city, and it has a code, so people make sure that when they select the test, they select the correct one. An International Code Cancer Certificate is a prerequisite for the license. So this is something that you have to even start the application process, okay? Proof of identification or photo ID for state or federal issued. This is because the ordinance requires that we verify that all license holders are 18 or older. And I understand that a lot of times you come to the counter and why are they asking me for this? They know I'm more, older than 18. But we have to make sure that these documents can speak for themselves. So if someone will open that file, by only looking at the information, we'll know that this person is 18 or older, okay? Evidence of at least 4 years of experience for contractors. A lot of times they ask, what type of evidence you want. So if you work for a company, the company can write a letter. If you work for yourself, then you can provide copies of your tax return. All we want is to make sure that we have a way to verify that you have those years. And city tax ID from the city finance department is one of the things that we are enforcing lately a lot. It's always been in the ordinance. It's always been there. This is not a new thing. But now we do require to have that confirmation with the application. So to make sure that you have a valid tax ID, at this time we're not asking that your account is up to date, but you do have to have some sort of payment plan or something worked out with the finance department so they can give you that letter and we can issue the license, okay? Was able to read and speak English, complete HVAC license application. And when I say completed, a lot of people get used to just signing their names, their address, put a check on it and send it over. We will send it back. That's not gonna be enough information for us to look for you in a system to make sure that you are the right person and post that check to the right account. So we need a completed application. A certificate of insurance listing the city of Pittsburgh as a certificate holder is key. A lot of times we get insurance faxed to us with no name, no license number on them, and they're not listing the city as a city holder. So that can cause an issue with your license. You may have everything in it, but if that's not part of your application, we won't be able to process that, okay? So just make sure that when you talk to your insurance agency, that they understand that this portion needs to be completed in your insurance, okay? And of course, a check and money order for your fee, which I always said to check on the website for the fee schedule. We haven't changed the fees in 3 years, but if we do, it will be there. It will be on our website, okay? Electrical contractor license is pretty similar, also requires the ICC test. This is again a prerequisite, so if you don't have that test, we can't start the process. Same thing with the ID, we need to make sure that you are 18 and older. And then on the experience, you have to provide one of the following. Either attending electrical wiring from a school and at least 2 years of experience, or 10 years working for a registered electrician in another state, and we will need copies of that licenses to make sure that we can confirm that with the state. And then you have an option to work 10 years of experience with a city of Pittsburgh electrical contractor. Same thing in this case. Either you have a letter from the contractor or you can provide your tax records to prove that you were working for yourself. Okay? Tax ID is also required. Most able to read and speak English, complete electrical contractor license, certificate of insurance listed in the city as a certificate holder, and the money order with the right amount. Okay? One more thing about the application I keep mentioning this, computer application. The applications are all online. So now you don't have to wait for us to send you something in the mail. You can go online, get the PDF, print it out, and fill it out. Okay? General contractor license. It's a little different. It has less requirements. You do have to prove that you are 18 or older. You have to also provide a certificate of insurance listed in the city of Pittsburgh as additional insured. And if you have employees working for you, then you also require to have workers' comp. Okay, and this is a state requirement. All employers that have, all businesses that have employees need to carry workers' comp. Okay. City tax ID, completed application, and again, the check and money order for the correct amount. Power engineer, stationary license. You will need proof, again, that you're 18 and older. NIUB test certification with specific classification. Currently, we only have NIUB as a approved testing. We're working on trying to find other companies that will provide the same testing with the same value, but currently NIUB is the only one that we accept. And the test is pretty much similar to what the electrical contractor or HVAC test is. It's specific to their trade. Then current license holder, like I said before, can renew their license without retesting if they continue taking at least 8 hours of continuing education on a yearly basis. So with the stationary engineers, you will take the test once, and you continue your 8 hours of continuing education. You can renew without a problem. Now they do have different levels. I believe it's like 1 to 5. To change from different levels, you have to retest. So every time that you want to change levels, you have to go back to NIUB, take the higher level test. They give you their certification on that test, and give you a letter that says that you now tested on, class 2 or class 3 or class 5 or whichever classes that you are approved now. And then when we issue the license, we issue in the correct class. Okay? Any of you are contractors currently? Okay. For signed contractors, again, proving that you're 18 and older, certificate of insurance, listed in the city of Pittsburgh as an additional insured. Same thing with the general contractor. If you have employees with you, you have to provide workers' comp, tax ID, completed application, and a check for the correct amount. So one thing that a lot of people ask is like, where do I get all this information? We know this by heart. We work that every day. How do I make sure I get the right things? Our website. I think that 99% of our information is there. And we've been working very hard in the past year to make sure that you don't have to call the number to make sure someone answers and give you the one information you need. We're trying very hard to make sure that everything is on our website. And we are also including some FAQs out there as well. So when we get people that are calling about the same thing, we put it out there so that everybody can access that information. So this is our website, trade licenses. If you look at the left side, you see the list of all the trade licenses in there. And if you click on each one of them, it will tell you exactly what we just talked about. The requirements, you can get their PDF application. It also gives you example of what a certificate of insurance look like. And if you look at the bottom, a certificate of insurance, certificate holder, that's where the information goes. A lot of times people don't put it somewhere else. That's where the information needs to be, to put City of Pittsburgh certificate holder for the licenses, okay? I have people that literally just take this to the agency and they did it from there. A lot of times they also email or send us a fax with the copy directly to us, and that's fine as well, as long as they add your license number in the record, okay? If we go back to, if you can click on the electrical contractor. Here we have a little bit of information on how to test. You go back a little. How to schedule your tests. So in here, we kind of give you a brief of what that is. We don't manage the test. The test is not done here in the city. It's done directly through ICC. But here kind of give you some pointers of how to get that done. And then if you click on that link, it actually takes you to the website where you're going to be scheduling your tests, okay? And they have tests available every week. They have many different locations in the city and outside the city. But that's something that you will manage with them directly, okay? Any of you familiar with our website so far? Okay. So the goal is that one day you'll be able to fill this in the website. You don't have to print it and send it in the mail. We're working on that. But for now, we can just put it there. You guys print it out and mail it, okay? Remember the steps to avoid delays and late fees. We're trying very hard to make sure that you guys know ahead of time what's expected so that we don't have to spend time sending applications back, but two, you don't encounter the problem with, like, I sent this 2 weeks ago, I still haven't get my license, or you send it back to me 3 times, what's going on. These are the major key elements that we want to make sure that you all remember. The application needs to be filled out completely. And when I say completely, I mean completely. Everything that is in the application right now is all the requirements that our system asks my staff to complete. So when you don't have a completed application, and they try to submit it in the system, it's not going to go through because the required fields that are empty are going to keep popping up. So they are forced to send that information back, or they're forced to call you, to try to contact you to get that information. So it's key that you fill that information completely. Submit your renewal application no later than 30 days from expiration date to avoid late fees. The ordinance does give you some sort of freelance onto, I was late for a day, I was late for 2 days, that's fine, but as long as you're not more than 30 days late, we should be able to issue your license with no problem. But now, if you pass that stage, just know that you're gonna have to add that fee into the check, okay? That's another problem we encounter a lot, is that you send it over 30 days, but you didn't include the late fee on it. So now we have to send it back and ask you for the late fee, okay? So just be conscious of that. At least in the department, what we do is that the 30-day count from the postmark. So if you're sending it in the mail and it's postmarked within the 30 days for the expiration date, we will be able to issue it. But if it's postmarked after, then we need the late fee, okay? Submit renewal applications no later than 60 days from the expiration date to avoid new application requirements and or possible retesting. This has been by far the question that's been asked the most in 2016. We have to make sure that you understand that if you pass that 60-day mark, we're gonna ask you for everything. So did you take a test? Yes. Can you provide a copy? Did you have your experience? Yes. Can you provide that as well? We only keep three years of records in our office, so it makes it very challenging when there is a gap in your license. And we want to make sure that we have the most important updated information of your records, okay? Now, if you can't provide that information, and we don't have it in our records, then we have a problem, okay? So if you took a test, and you can't provide for a copy, and we don't have a record of your test, you may need to retest, okay? So this is why it's very important to make sure that you have these dates on your calendar, and also that you keep your records at home to make sure that you can prove to us that you actually did these things, 5-10 years ago, okay? So this is something that's very important that I want to make sure that you all understand, but you also take back to the community and let everybody know that these are things that we are looking for. Include all requirements and documents for applications based on application status, if it's a renewal or if it's a new application. And I go back to that. You will need everything for a new application. Everything that we put out there, you need to add to that application. If it's a renewal and it is within the 60 days of your expiration date, the only thing we would not need is a copy of your test and a copy of your experience. Everything else needs to be there. Your tax ID needs to be there. Your certificate of insurance needs to be there for all of them, okay? Your updated information, your email account, your address, everything in there. And when I say, another thing that we were having problems with is that our contact information was not being updated yearly. So you change your phone number or you move, we have no way of contacting you. And we continue getting applications back or mailings back saying, this person don't live here. How do we contact them? The only way that we have is to put a hold on your license. So then when you come to the counter and try to pull a permit, then we can find you, okay? So it's important for you to make sure that the information you put in there is your best contact information, okay? Also, the permit side of our department, construction side of the department also uses that contact information if there are issues with permits or inspection, okay? So it actually feeds both systems. Consult the current application fee schedule. Again, for some reason, people tend to guess what's the fee. I have really bad memory, so I really don't believe that's a good way to go. But we get checks that are like $1 short, or 50 cents short, or $5 more, so it just tells me that someone tried to remember what was that fee, but didn't quite hit it. That is going to create a delay. That means that my staff spend 10 or 15 minutes going through applications that they can't process. Now we have to send it back. Now we have to wait for you to get it, to then correct that problem, to then send it back. That could be 3 weeks. So if it takes you a minute, just open that website, confirm that, that amount, and make sure that check has the right amount. We are conscious that our website is a little busy right now, and there is not a very nice view when you look you're looking in your phone. So we're working on that in 2017 to make it more easy to read, and it has a better view when you look at it from a phone, okay, and not necessarily from a desktop. But we're working on that. City tax ID certificate from the city finance department. Again, this has always been in the ordinance for years. For whatever reason, it wasn't enforced correctly for a long time. And last year when we started asking for this, a lot of contractors kind of got by surprise and thought that this was a new thing. It's always been there. Over years, it's always been there. Unfortunately, because of the systems the finance have in our department do not connect, automatically it took an additional effort from the departments to make sure that that's enforced correctly. So now we're doing that. Now we're making sure that, one, you have a tax ID, but also that you have a valid tax ID. And what I mean with that is that if you have a letter from the finance department that is 15 years old, I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask you to go back to the finance department and confirm that that is valid. But if you have a letter from last year, that's fine, that's valid for us, okay? Now the finance department, it is enforcing on their end the taxes as well. So a lot of times when a contractor has a big balance pending, they refuse to give you the letter because that means that you won't be able to get a license. We're trying to work on that. I do take contractors that have payment plans with the finance department. I ask the finance department to issue that letter saying, yes, they have an account with us, they are in a payment plan, and that's good for us. I do want our contractors to be out there working. I don't want them to lose their ability to work. But just to be cautious that you at least need to have some sort of payment arrangement with the finance department. Okay? Certificate of insurance, when required, lists the city of Pittsburgh as an additional insurer for general contractor or certificate holder for electrical and HVAC. Again, I think this is honestly that 80% of our applications have an issue with this. It's because either the person don't know what that looks like, they don't know what certificate holder looks like, or the company they're working with is not familiar with what the city requires. Okay? So we have actually communicated, we took the top 5 insurance companies that we usually see coming through, send them letters to them saying, if you have, contractors that work with the city, this is what we require from you, to try to facilitate that with the contractors. And it has worked, many times, but again, it's going to cause a delay on your side. So as much as we're trying to make things work, if you go to the agency and said, this is what I need, print it out, copy from the website, make them familiar with it, and that will actually ease that problem. And again, the check. I think it's funny because I have 3 kids. They're going 3 different schools, and those that have kids know that PTO asks for a million things a year. And I'm one of them that fill out the form, say yes, I buy 5 of those, and send it out and do not put the check in it. That happens a lot. And here it happens very frequently. They either miss the check, or they put the wrong amount, or they even put a different name on the check. So I 100% understand that we have a lot going on in our minds, and this can happen. But because we don't have currently an online system that can, make this a lot easier, we still track things on paper and mail. It takes the process to correct that. It takes a lot longer than we wanted to. So I really want you guys to make sure that that check is correct. Okay? We're government agencies, so if you send us $5 more, we can't take it. As good as that sounds sometimes, that people are like, just take it, I don't care. We can't, okay? So the check has to be the exact amount so that we can process it. Okay? Any questions? Okay, so I have my contact information up here. I will make sure that I send it out to all of you. You guys did the sign-in sheet. We're here to help. Like I said, we are here for our community. I do want to make it clear that you all understand that we do have to follow the ordinance. So if a lot of times people ask us to tell us that make no sense, and I could say, I understand, but the ordinance is what it is. So if you guys see that there is change that needs to happen and there are things that you would like to see, you need to direct that through the channels and your council members and things like that, because we can't change it. So we just follow what it says that the requirements are, okay? So that's my information. Anybody wants to contact me. I also have the general email address for my staff for general questions on how to complete applications. They're very, very good answering their emails. There's 6 of them at the counter. The email is pliapptech@pittsburghpa.gov. That's a general email. It actually goes through all of them at the same time, and myself. So we work through them through the day to make sure that we answer them in a timely manner. Well, thank you very much for your time. I hope I didn't bore you to death. And again, feel free to ask reach out to me or any of my colleagues if you have any questions. Okay? I'll let you back with the director.
Thank you. That's tremendous. So this is one of the areas that we get a lot of questions on. So this will be, we'll send this presentation out to everyone on our newsletter list, and we'll also be playing this on the Government Access channel, so you can all watch this again at home. And we'll also be posting the link in a YouTube video. So if anyone has any questions, let us know. We're also happy to come out and talk to any trades associations or union halls or groups of members that do a lot of this type of work and would like a more specific, question and answer period around more nuanced portions of the individual licenses. So thank you all. I appreciate your time.